Hey guys, welcome to season 2 of the School of Life podcast. I cannot even begin to tell you how excited I am for this season. While away, I've been busy planning for all the exciting things I'm planning to roll out in season 2. So get ready for more guests, more candid conversations, and more growth. If you've been a School of Life friend since the beginning, thank you for rocking with me. And if you're new, welcome to the friend gang. Be sure you follow me and the podcast on Instagram @_MISSJAYE and at School of Life Pod. I can't wait to connect with you and hear your feedback. I've missed you guys and I'm so happy to be back. Let's start the show.
Wow, Sina.
Another day, another dollar. I'm saving just to be broke. They said college was serious, but my degree feel like a joke. 4 years or less, I'm sane. I got it done. No playing, just to end up at my mom's after I told her I wasn't staying. Well, here we are. No question, I'm a star. Just got some light years to travel, but it's just so far. But I'ma make it though. Make sure you get your focus right. You coming too, it's about to be one hell of a ride. Yeah, this adults and stuff is crazy. They ain't warn us about this. I'm supposed to live my best life on an unpaid internship. How I'm supposed to find my husband? Everybody running game. I guess the more things change, the more they stay the same. Went from worrying about on flow to running from Uncle Sam. Now I understand why student accounts never gave a damn. Saving accounts be slipping, trying to work out, but I'm tripping. I forgot health insurance. Oh, I'm my mom's until I'm 26, so I gotta pay these student loans. That's adulting. With the score doing the most. That's adulting. Moving out of mom's house. That's adulting, but it's all gonna work out. That's adulting. I need a legal side hustle. That's adulting. Cause these bills got me in trouble. That's adulting. The journey's course is never planned. That's adulting. So just leave it in God's hands. Cause that's adulting.
Hey friends, welcome back to another fabulous episode of the School of Life podcast, and welcome to season 2. We are back, and as y'all already know, I am so excited if you cannot hear in my voice. Let me just say for the record, I missed y'all, and I am so happy to be back. I hope the beginning of your year has been filled with vision, purpose, manifestation, and literally everything in between. So I told y'all at the end of season 1 that mediocre days are over, okay? So my hope is that you believed it and you received it, because I know my 2020 has been lit and full of non-mediocre things. Before we hop into today's episode, I just have to acknowledge that I am still in awe that I'm in season 2 of this thing, y'all. This is super, super crazy. I had this crazy idea like 2 years ago, and now here we are. So thank you so much for your support, for your love, for your DMs, all of it. I could not, and I probably honestly would not do it without all of y'all, because this takes a lot of time and patience. So thank you for rocking. So it's been a minute since you've heard from me. I know you are probably dying to know what's been up with your girl. Child, what's not been up? Let me start off by saying that God has been up. He's been doing his thing. He's been up, down, all around, side to side. Like, he's the one that's been up. He's literally been showing up and showing out. And I'm just excited about what he's doing in my life in spite of what seemed like challenging times. So I think I told y'all that the devil really tried me hard in 2019 and my faith was tested, but your girl is here. I'm still standing, okay? So I'm here to tell you, when you hold on and keep the faith, no one, and I mean no one, can touch you or stop you. So that's what's up with me. God, he is all the way up. So since the last episode, I've launched a consulting business. I've booked 3 paying clients. I've got a trainer, yes, to my summer body, which is loading. I sent my baby sister off to Texas to start adulting, and I did cry. Yes, she's my first child, so send me Kleenex if you can. I've been practicing more gratitude. I've been drinking my water, minding my business, wearing less, and going out more. I'm just kidding. I've been going out. I've been living my life. But you get the point. Sis has been busy, okay? And I am so thankful for it. The most important thing I've been doing since we last chatted, it's just investing in me, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, all of it. I must say, my 2020 has started off on a positive note, and I know it's because I made up in my mind that's how it was going to be, point blank, period. So that's exactly what you should do if you haven't, because we have zero room for negativity and mediocrity. Okay? Okay. So that's what's up with me. I'm super excited about today's episode because not only is it the first episode of my second season, but I have another amazing guest joining me today, and y'all are going to love her just as much as I do. But before I get too excited, get out your notebooks, your pencils, because School of Life is in session. Today we have Mrs. Bertine Crevecourt West, who, by the way, is adopting me because I love her last name. She is joining us today to talk about how challenging it can be to navigate non-diverse spaces in our careers and professional settings. So simply put, I heard y'all sent me feedback, and y'all want to know, how do we deal with these white people in the workplace who don't seem to respect us as Black and brown people? So listen, it's about to get juicy, okay? I met Bertine last year at an event, and we both knew that our relationship was so much more than a casual acquaintance. So I am super thrilled that we are making magic happen today on the School of Life podcast. So before we jump into our super juicy questions that some of you sent in, I am going to share a little bit about Bertine's background. So Bertine is the CEO of Westbridge Solutions, and she believes the power of knowledge is transformational. She founded her business on the core competencies of planning and organization, cultural awareness, and collaborative working. Bertine received her Bachelor of Arts and Master's of Arts degrees from St. John's University in Jamaica, New York. And prior to becoming the CEO of Westbridge Solutions, LLC, she worked in the corporate and healthcare sectors as a multilingual professional. Her passion for learning and sharing knowledge with others led to her role as a trainer and public speaker. She was also able to grow her skills in language and cultural development while working with prominent organizations such as Clayton State University, Gwinnett Medical Center, Georgia Department of Public Health, the American Red Cross, and many, many more. Mrs. Crevecourt West is the author of 3 books. Yes, y'all, 3. Sis has been writing and dropping the knowledge. Those books are Culture Incorporated, an innovative approach to cultural competence, diversity, and inclusion in the workplace. Global Fluency, 50 tips on creating a culturally competent and inclusive professional environment. And the Healthcare Trifecta, conversations on the intersectionality of language, illness, and culture. All 3 projects continue to drive towards positive culture change on a global scale. Listen, sis is booked and busy and dropping the knowledge. Welcome, Bertine. How are you today?
Hey, Jaye. Hello, everyone in the School of Life. Hello, all of those out there in the friend gang.
Yes.
I want to say thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm so excited to be here. Congratulations on season 2. Not even episode 2, season 2.
Yes.
I'm super proud of you. And yes, I want to adopt you, and I want you to adopt me right back. Oh, my goodness. So I'm so glad that we got to meet, and our friendship is just this wonderful thing that also translates into our business lives, which I love.
Awesome.
So you are killing the game, girl.
Thank you.
I'm proud
so
of you.
happy to be here. So I know we have a lot of juicy questions. We have a great topic today. Before we get into the nitty gritty, can you tell us a little bit about your professional background that I may have missed, or how you even started your own company and what you're currently doing in your company?
Alrighty. Well, Westbridge Solutions is my company. We are a learning and development company, and I started through trial and tribulation. I came from a corporate background in New York. I was preparing to go to law school. About to work on my second master's degree beforehand. And then I decided to move to Georgia because of love. So my fiance at the time got a job here in Georgia, and we moved down here, got married. And when I was 3 months pregnant, I got laid off from my job at a law firm here. And I had never been laid off in my life. I literally had to call my mother and say, what do I do?
Yeah.
I'm a grown up, about to be married, laid off. Wait, no, was married, about to be laid off.
Oh my goodness.
And I was just like, I had no clue what to do. So the first lesson I learned was, never be ashamed to ask for help, because when you don't know, you can't make a move that's going to help you grow.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, that rhymes. That's great. But then my mom talked me through it, and she was like, this is what you have to do. That's what you had to do. And for one day, I was literally shell-shocked because I was like, this is not even something I understand how to deal with.
Right.
But then I thought to myself, you know what? All right, that time is come and gone because I won't give myself more than 24 hours to process all of that. It's time to make moves. And so I said, I'm going to do a SWOT analysis of myself, you know? So for those listeners out there in the corporate world, they are with me on this one, I'm sure. So, and I think it's really important for somebody to do that, to really take stock of what your skills are, what you could use, you know, improvement on, and then what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy. Because the worst thing to do is do something that you're good at that you don't like. Right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, I need to do something that I'm great at, that I love to do.
Yeah.
And also, too, I wanted the baby to be proud of me, right? That was always my motivating factor because I'm like, I want you to know Mom is about it.
Right.
You know, so even before he got here. So I did a lot of research. I decided, you know, I'm a multilingual person. I speak 4 languages, and those are English. Not fancy, just, you know what? Gotta get out there. Gotta get out there and do what you gotta do, right? And so those languages are English, French, Haitian, Creole, and Spanish. And so I was an American born here, but I didn't learn English till I was 5. Because my mom was all about, you're going to know everything about your culture. And so, you know, I was blessed to have, you know, a family that really made that a priority. You know, mind you, the first day of kindergarten, that was real rough. But once I overcame that language barrier, as you can see now, I'm fully fluent, right? And so it's always interesting to tell people I'm an American that didn't speak English.
Right.
You know, and they're like, where are you from, California? I'm like, no, New York. So don't get that twisted either. But having said that, once I started the company, I was 7 months pregnant. And so it was basically me and the kid from the beginning. So the company and my son are siblings. And so it started out as a translation and interpretation company that was just me based on my language skills, right?
Oh, okay.
And so most of my clients, I would say 90% of them at that time were in Europe. So I was working on different time zones, which if our listeners out there are pregnant, let me tell you, you know my pain, because I'm like, why do I have to be up at this hour?
Right.
You know, but I always look back and say, if I didn't do that like that then I couldn't be who I am now. Right. And so essentially I had the kid working before he even showed up. So at that point, then that company, it morphed. And then I started saying to myself, I was interpreting all the time after he was born, traveling to different places locally. Well, it wasn't glamorous, I will tell you that. Sometimes, maybe once in a while, but most of the time, it was not glamorous because you are just like hauling it from one place to the other. I'm talking, you know, throughout the state of Georgia, you know, and further in other states as well. And then I was over the phone interpreting and venturing into video interpreting. And but it's exciting because one day I could be in brain surgery. Because if someone's conscious, they have to be for brain surgeries if you're testing their reactions to things. So guess who's in there with them if English is not their first language? The interpreter, right? So women delivering babies, guess who's in there with them? People having cataract surgery. So every day was a different experience, but I will, particularly in healthcare interpreting. Legal is a different creature, and that was exciting for many other reasons, right? But then that company, I decided at one point to close down the interpretation and translation side and focus on training other interpreters because people did not have proper training, particularly in the state of Georgia. I mean, so far behind the national standard. And so I decided I'm going to create something that was better than what I even got. So having said that, I created Westbridge Solutions, and then it morphed into cultural competence. Then, because wherever I see a need to be filled, that's where I decide to plant seeds and have that grow. Because my goal is always to help people be their best. So I say, I'm not the star on stage, I am the lighting director. Because we all need good lighting, right? And so that was my goal. I was like, I want to help people have that Oprah level lighting, right? Because that was some good lighting. Okay. And so I want them to be prepared for their careers out there. And so it branched out into more than just interpretation and translation, more than healthcare. It branched out into the corporate sector, the legal sector, the nonprofit sector. So at this point, we are a fully formed learning and development company. So I'm loving it. So that was a long answer. Sorry.
No, you have to bring us around so everyone can understand. Even me, I didn't know that's how you started. And that's super, super, super dope to me. So with all of that, and just from knowing you, I know you have a lot of experience working in and around diverse backgrounds. And you seem very comfortable in it, just from our interactions. And it's a lot. It can be a lot. How have you learned to be comfortable in those spaces, especially when it's not work related? So you walk into a space and you're not really there for work. You may just be going to dinner, and you may notice your family is the only family of color in the restaurant. Like, how have you learned?
Have you been following us? Is that what's happening? Because I'm like, yes, that was Monday.
Right. How have you learned to be comfortable in spaces and environments like that?
Well, I'm going to have to take you a little bit back for that one, because what I did learn, and this might be, I find that it can be controversial because people don't always want to hear it, right? But what I did learn from the first time I stepped foot into school, I remember first grade, where, it was a memory that stayed with me always. And I dare say that it set the course for my life insofar as how I want people to have more empowered communications with one another and more clarity. I remember the first kids to tease me were the kids that looked like me.
Oh, wow.
The very first ones. And that's when I knew, because I went home crying and I asked my mom, I'm like, why are they making fun of me? They say we talk a funny language. And now as a grown-up, I'm like, yes, we speak four.
Right.
But
mind yours, only one.
Right? But I do claim that all the time. But they say, we speak this funny language. They made fun of my hair ribbons, and you can imagine, I'll give you a quick visual. I was a little girl who was a huge tomboy. My mom loved to dress me in dresses. So it was me, my dresses, and my Incredible Hulk lunchbox. Just living my best life.
Right.
And so, that's when I realized my mom said, well, we're from a different country than they are. And I'm like, but I was born here. I'm like them. And she was like, but you're not. Ethnically, we are different.
Right.
And that was the first time I learned the difference between being Black and African American. And really, at that young age, I didn't have the words for it, but as an adult, that's when I learned the differences between nationality and ethnicity.
Right.
And that had huge implications because by sheer virtue of that experience, I was the other, even within a group that looked like me, which is a beautiful thing for diversity, right? It goes to show you that, of course, we all know that, being Black is not a monolithic experience, right? Because Black people from the North have different experience from Southern Blacks, right? And that's not even talking about ethnicities, whether you're Eritrean, Ethiopian, Haitian, Dominican, and then it also became, that experience also translated into my Latinness, because Haiti is a Caribbean as well as a Latin country. So then I had to contend with, other Latinos thinking I'm not Latin enough. Right? Yeah. And so you're either not Black enough or you're not Latin enough or you're not something enough.
Right.
And so at a certain time in life, I had to decide I was enough. And thankfully, I had a family who was that way as well. They were very bold about who they were. And so growing up, I always knew I came from the first free Black republic in the Western Hemisphere. So that was what I thought of before, the New York Times articles or the CNN always describing Haiti as the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. I was like, we were a land of kings and we were right here.
Right.
So I think for me, because I had that instilled in me, I grew up with a sense of ethnic pride.
Gotcha.
Right. And so that superseded everything else because if we go back a little bit in history, we know that race is an American phenomenon, right? And it was created with good intentions to distinguish, who was getting what services, to make sure there was equality.
Right.
The problem was once we, use that for just once we had purposes with slavery, once we had, malintent associated with those classifications, that led us down a horrific rabbit hole to which we're still paying for today. Right. And not only as people of color, but as a nation, because I talk about when I teach diversity or when I go out there talking about anything related to diversity, we have to deal with every color in the crayon box. So when we leave white people out of the equation, we are not being inclusive.
Right.
Right. And so then
as much as we don't want to admit that part.
Exactly. And that is why it can get controversial because then people are like, but what about us? I'm like, but they are a part of us.
Right.
Because the last time I checked, we are all Americans.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we have to, because if we don't take this journey together hand in hand, even when the road gets uncomfortable, we're not going to go further. Right? What's that? There's an African proverb, and I can't remember the country in Africa from which it hails, but it says if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together.
Yeah.
So we have no choice but to go together. But that means having difficult conversations, establishing clarity. And so for me, when I go into a space, I'm usually the only Black person, right? And then when I haven't been the only Black person, more often than not, I've been the only Haitian person. Okay. And so the discrimination I faced was from my fellow Black people who were African American. So I had to define myself for myself very quickly, but I also knew I had to always extend a hand, right? Sometimes the hand that reaches back may not look like mine, but sometimes it may. But my comfort level isn't contingent upon someone else's level of education about themselves.
That's good.
Okay.
Yes, I like my comfort level isn't contingent upon someone else's education about themselves.
That's right. So to get comfortable, you got to know yourself first. And the only way you can do that is by, again, SWOT analysis, take a hard look and learn like who you actually are. And that doesn't mean knowing what country in Africa you come from. I happen to, but it's not necessary. It's about waking up in the morning, seeing the person before you. Are you in tune with who you're looking at? Does it match who you think you are? Right? It's about knowing yourself internally, and then you can deal with the external world.
So when you go out there, you're already together. You don't have to, I like that.
But that doesn't mean it's easy, right? Because I know Bertine is deep down a 5-year-old tomboy, loving to climb stuff and jump up from stuff. But at the same time, I have to have my outward persona as well, my corporate persona, the persona I have within my friendships. So there are layers, but understanding that all those layers are okay, that's how I create my own comfort space.
Gotcha. I love that. And you kind of literally hit the nail on the head speaking about being comfortable in yourself, because I know one thing that my generation is having an extremely hard time dealing with that no one teaches us or even really talks about is navigating being the only one. And like, yes, I'm comfortable, but still I walk into the meeting and I'm the only one. Like, why am I the only one? Which we don't have a direct answer for that.
Right. We do actually, but that's another episode.
Right, that's another episode. But just as a young professional, we're in our 20s and we're just really trying to figure this life thing out. How do we navigate being the only one or one of few when we do feel confident? Like, I look at myself and I'm like, I'm the bomb.com. I feel confident. Like,
and she
6
is.
days out of 7.
She is.
But I know me personally, I still will walk into a meeting at work, and I'm like, ugh, I got to put on my face. I'm not comfortable.
And you know how I feel about that, Jaye.
Yes, I know. Like, what are some healthy ways or tips you can give us about being the only one and kind of overcoming that? I'm the only one. Let me wipe my face and get it together.
Right. Like I do this. For me, I love a business suit. It is my power suit.
Yes.
But what I realize is it's also my armor. And armor works two ways. It can protect you, but it can also keep you separated from feeling things. Right?
I like that.
So we have to decide. And it's a really, it's an interesting path to navigate because we have to decide, are we going, for what purpose are we using the armor today? Right? Because sometimes we don't need to wear all of it.
Yeah.
You know, because it's heavy.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's heavy and it will burden you. And it's like Erykah Badu and that song Bag Lady.
Bag Lady,
right?
yes.
I don't need to carry all those bags now. Right? Sometimes the luggage can just stay where it is. Right? So I will say this. When I walk into a room, and I realize that I do this unconsciously, I scan the room. But I
count. Do you count how many people?
No.
Okay.
But I used to be cognizant of it. But because I was used to being the only Black person, right? And I'll give you an example. Even my best friend, she is African American and Puerto Rican, but she looks Chinese, literally, right? And when she hears this, she's gonna be like, "Girl, really?" And I was like, "But I've been telling her this for years, right?" We've been friends since we were 4 and 5 years old. So let's just say that's 40 plus years of friendship. Now I'm putting her age out there, good. But having said that, we went to one of my favorite places to go to eat. I always said in New York, I go where the rats go because the food is good, right?
Right. So, I go where maybe a roach or two.
I'm just like, this is tasty. Everybody wants to be here. But we went into this restaurant out on Long Island, and we were the only people of color, period. And by that, I mean we were the only Black people, because I think it's appropriate to call a person by their
Right,
you know,
right.
their proper racial designation, because we all are of color, right? But we were the only Black people. And then she sat down and she felt uncomfortable. And I was like, girl, what are you worried about? I am the only one here that looks to them like a Black
Right,
person,
right.
you know? And I always thought it was funny because even when I remember once we were walking together in the subway and someone asked her something in Spanish. And then she looked at me, she said, what'd they say? And so,
Wow.
but you know what, that was the dynamic,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because even within, you know, different racial and ethnic groups, because we're not just going to put it all on white
Right.
people, right? People have their preconceived notions about
Right.
what someone who speaks Spanish should look like, right? Or even, you know, what somebody who's Asian should look like, because people would come up to her and she'd be like, I don't speak your
Wow.
language. Like they thought she was, one person thought she was Filipino, when she was like, no, sorry,
Right.
you know.
Wrong person.
Right. And so, you know, going back to your original question, I scanned the room now more so just to get a lay of the land, right? And not to be like, oh, that person's Black, I'm going to gravitate towards them. But we do get happy when we see people that look like
you're
us,
like,
right?
Oh, sis, hey, girl.
Okay, hey, right? But then what happens when you don't get that hey back?
Oh, yeah.
Right? And that's what I learned is that we tend to think there are two sides of our brain. There's our reptilian brain, right? That likes patterns, likes things, and that creates stereotypes.
Yeah.
So maybe that person that looks like us is really nothing like us, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe the person that looks completely different, the red-headed person with the green eyes and the freckles, that's my person,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We grew up in the same neighborhood. We understand what it means to be, let's say, New Yorkers or from a particular, you know, block, right? That person's the one I went to school with, and that person's down for me for the
Right.
whole count,
Yeah.
right? So it's really important to get a lay of the land, but also know yourself first. So then when you do meet other people, you're ready. Like, again, so my comfort, once again, is not contingent upon anybody else's situation in there, but my own internal situation,
Gotcha. Yeah.
right? So sometimes I am the only one, but I think when you are the only one, it also is incumbent upon you to reach out a hand and be that mentor, even if it's peer-to-peer mentoring,
Right.
And say to that person, hi, what's your name? Like, I know part of the reason why I'm here today is because one person in one Rotary group that I went to once was like, what's your name? Come sit by me. And they were
Wow.
older than I was. And really, they introduced me to so many other people.
Right.
And that introduced, that person in that group introduced me to other people. And like, honestly, I can say there's a direct correlation between me meeting you and that one person
Right.
several years ago saying, come sit by me.
Gotcha.
Right?
Wow.
So we have to look at who's out there who needs us, right? And representation is important, but it's not always how we think it is, because sometimes it is a group of young people that don't look anything like me that need me by sheer virtue of my experience and my
Right.
age, right?
Yes.
So did I answer the question too much?
You
I
did.
don't know.
No, not too much. We need all of this. We need to put on our armor. We need to scan the room, but not for the reasons that we normally do. For reasons to say, well, who can I connect with who may not look like me? You know, I know who I am. How can I bring someone into my world, and how can I then be welcomed into their world? So, yeah, those are really good. You just keep hitting on all my questions. So, the next question was: is it a safe idea to gravitate, you know, to people who look like us in professional settings? But I think you would say no.
I would say yes and no. The problem is you don't want to gravitate only to create, because if you overly gravitate, what that can do is create tribalism, right? And so that would be really bad. Think about what that would look like to a new person coming into a job. Because remember yourself when you first came into a job.
Yeah.
Everybody had their respective corners and groups, right?
Yeah.
It's like high school,
Yeah.
right? And in high school, I can tell you for sure, I didn't have a clique. I had different friends from different groups, right? And so you know what? Some of the time I was on my own, but I always knew that I could gravitate and move and have that social mobility, which is really important. And I think especially for our listeners, when you are in the corporate world, social mobility is everything. It is your passport, right? And so let's say I want to just visit one country. Okay, great.
Right.
Now I know everything about one country.
Right.
How do I interact with people from other places, right?
I like that.
So it is your passport. And so I would say dare to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. It's good to have your people, your crew. You know, we all need our squad, right? Because I love having one. But I also know that now I can have different level of squads in different places, right? Okay. So you walk through, imagine walking through down a hallway, and everybody gives you a high five.
Right.
Well, not always everybody, right?
Right.
But like that the people high-fiving you look so different, are so different. Like my life is richer because of it. And honestly, too, it makes me appreciate and love my Blackness, my Haitianness, my Latinness, my Americanness even more, right? Because now I get to be a part of this beautiful tapestry that is America. And I think sometimes we forget that, right? Like living in this country, it is not easy, but oh, is it worth it?
Yeah.
Yeah, all day, every day.
Perfect. I'm doing like the okay sign.
Don't make me bust down my flag now.
Okay, so switching gears just a little bit. I love how you're even challenging me to think about how I interact, because I will be honest, I have been the person, when I walk into a room, I'm looking for the Black people.
Yes, that's real. That is real.
I don't care if you don't like me. You're going to sit here and you're going to make me feel comfortable.
Oh, no, Jay. Not the pressure. Not the pressure.
Right, guys, I'm a work in progress. Pray for me, okay? Pray for me. But I love that your advice is challenging me to do more things that are, one, not comfortable, but that are necessary for me to continue to be a well-rounded individual, because I can't live in my Black bubble forever.
Black bubble, y'all. She done said it. I love that.
Get out your Black bubble. We need to go get in other bubbles. We cannot live in our Black bubble forever, because nothing gets accomplished in the Black bubble. It's like we reach a glass ceiling, and then we can't go further because we need people who are different. And so I appreciate you challenging me to just I'm going to try, guys. I'm going to try.
Thank you.
With trying, it's a challenge. We know that it's a challenge.
Yes.
Nothing we're saying comes easy. One challenge that comes with that sometimes is when we interact with people who don't look like us and we have a cultural collision.
Yes.
One, can you explain for people who don't know what a cultural collision is, what it is? And then two, how do we go about combating those collisions? Because if Becky touches my hair one more time...
Why she got me named Becky? No.
See?
You see, y'all? You see what I'm talking about? No.
See, guys? Growth. I need growth. If Jacqueline touches my hair one more time...
Okay. No, but I'm with you.
Yes, okay. Tell us about what a cultural collision is, because I think a lot of my listeners, we experience them a lot of times, but if you don't work in a setting where someone will teach you what it is, the proper term, you don't know what it is. And then two, how do we deal with those? Just how? Help a sister and a brother out here, especially when the person may say something that's unintentionally racist or disrespectful.
Sure. And I want to preface that, because I think that's a fantastic question, but I want to preface it by saying I appreciate you and that you always step up to the challenge and know that I go through the same challenges every day, even now. So I may be labeled a cultural competence expert, but the struggle is real, okay? I don't want you thinking I'm leaving the house like, yes, y'all, I got this today, this cultural competency, because it is challenging to be culturally competent. It is challenging to look certain things in the face for clarity's sake, so you can get to the other side of that bridge. Because the bridge is rickety. And sometimes you might fall through with, your foot might fall through. And you're like, why? These are my good shoes, right?
Yes.
So, it is a challenging path, but every day I make a conscious effort to do that. And sometimes it can be a burden. Sometimes I just want to go to Publix or Kroger's. Shout out to Publix and Kroger's. But sometimes all right. This is sponsored by. But sometimes I just want to go to the supermarket and just be a girl from Queens. Right? That's Queens, New York for you Southerners. But, I just want to be a girl. I just want to do what I have to do. I just want to be a mom. I just want to be a wife, because that's challenging enough, right? So I don't want to wear that heavy crown. But then what is that saying? We can say, I tease my son because I know it's not what is it? Spider-Man? But, oh my goodness, I forget. See, I said this at home, but I forget. I'm paraphrasing, but with great power comes great responsibility. And that's from, a French philosopher whose name escapes me right now. Oh, nobody judge me. All right, I should know it. But essentially that's Voltaire. Yes, Voltaire. Okay, so Voltaire said with great power comes great responsibility, as did Spider-Man. So, that responsibility, right? There's a privilege that comes with that. And the privilege is the knowing, right? But the responsibility is a component of that. So if I'm going to choose to elevate myself, I have to take the good with the bad.
Yes.
I have to take the light with the heavy, the joy with the pain, the laughter with the tears, right?
Yeah.
And so having said that, cultural collisions are when, two people have a varied background that may be very different from the others. And then they come across, let's see, a situation, where one person behaves in one manner, one does in the other. And, somebody leaves feeling offended, someone leaves not knowing why, right? So what can we learn from that? That something was unsaid because both people leave confused as to why she touched my hair and why is she offended that I touched her hair.
Right.
I will tell you this, clarity matters, right? But one thing I don't like is this, because I've had every hairstyle under the sun, from long to straight to whatever you see right now to, curly blonde, right? And here is one thing that I know. In Haitian culture, it is considered inappropriate for somebody who's not your friend, your family member to touch your hair. Like, that's just rude. And I never understood people wanting to touch people's hair.
Right.
Like, I touch my husband's and my son's. Right. Because I'm like, oh, but I never thought about, unless you're doing your girlfriend's hair, like, I don't even touch theirs.
Right.
Because I'm just like, well, what if they didn't wash their hair that day? You know what I mean? Like, it's not my thing.
Right.
But I did realize when I was in high school, when I was in college, that a lot of people did want to touch my hair. And inevitably, I noticed it wasn't Black people, right? It wasn't Latinas. It wasn't the Asian kids. It was usually white people who were curious about my hair. So then I had to make a distinction. And I've evolved with that over time, for instance, right? And so the first time I said, well, I'll just have two sets of rules. Right? One that goes unspoken that I don't have to say to Black people or Latinas or Asians, and the other to be a little tolerant of white people who don't know that culturally, because how are they going to know about Haitian culture and my upbringing? Right? But then years later, I realized, oh, let's have a conversation. Right. Because I recall being in a corporate meeting and I had just cut off my hair, because when it was long and straight, people loved it because they were like, oh, it's so different. Right. And I'm like, no, you too can have this. Right. You know what I mean? You can go to a local store and grow your own, right? And then too, within even the Black community, like my sisters went through this in particular, because one had extremely long hair. Kids who were Black, girls who were Black would want to, fight her because they were just like, you and your fake hair. I got into a fight
over my hair when I was 10.
I'm not about to do that, y'all.
I knocked her out too, guys.
No, she didn't. Is there a bell that we can ring? but I was just like, I couldn't believe it because she was getting it from both sides, Oh, you think you're cute because your hair is so long.
Right. Yes, actually, I am cute and my hair is long.
Okay.
I was about to say something mean, but most times the people who said that, they didn't have a lot of hair.
Okay. Because edges matter.
Yeah. Talk about it.
Okay. Hashtag save your edges. But don't get me started on that.
Mind your edges, not mine.
Okay. I love it. But
sorry, I went all the way to the left.
Don't have me drive you there, too, because I am in the front seat with you. All right. We're Thelma and Louising it down a ratchet path. But that's okay. But so, like stuff like that. So you were damned if you did, you were damned if you didn't. And then when I decided to cut my hair, because when my son was born, I was like, oh, wow, I really miss my hair like that, right? Then you got people, and a lot of my girlfriends went through this. What do you put in it? And then you don't like the answer when I tell you it's water and hair gel, right? Right. And I'm just like, you too can have this. You can either grow it, and if you can't, you can buy it. Right. You know what I mean? Both worlds. Exactly. And so what I love about being a woman, particularly a Black woman, is the freedom to do whatever I want with my hair, right? And so having said that, in all my Black girl magic, being in this corporate meeting, this older white man, and this happened to me twice, and I didn't see it coming, by two different people. One just came in and I was seated and he just put his hands in my hair. He said, oh, I've got to touch it. And I was like, no, you don't.
Catch a case.
And I was so stunned that at that time I froze and I was like, what is happening? Yeah. Because A, it's a violation of my personal space. B, I'm a grown woman.
Right.
What? Yeah. And then C, I'm in a professional meeting.
Right.
This is highly embarrassing.
Right.
I am not a chia pet.
Yeah.
Right. And so that time, I will say, I just was like, okay, can we just move on with this? And I was like, I'm glad you like it. Thank you. Right. And I kind of backed out of that. Like I was reversing a car at high speed because I didn't know how to process that because I didn't expect it. I didn't have on my armor at that time because I was with colleagues who, I didn't expect that from.
Right.
And so the second time was, again, similar situation, same location. So maybe it's that spot, but same location. We were in a professional meeting, and then another one of my colleagues who was an older white man came up, and he was very fatherly, right? He was just, that was his way with all of us who were younger than him. And so he was like, oh, and he tried to pet my hair. And I was like, no, we're not messing up my hair, right? And I said it to him in a way where I established clearly what my boundaries were. But then there comes the stereotype, oh, you don't touch a Black woman's hair. Why not? My husband always touches my hair, right? And I think to myself, whether it's natural, whether it's relaxed, whether there are extensions or braids in it, because I've been through it all and I've loved the journey, right? He should touch my hair, right? That's my dude for real,
right?
That's
my man.
Okay. And my son is another one. He loves whatever hairstyle I have.
Right.
And so I hate that, though, when women say, oh, you shouldn't touch a Black woman's hair. No, maybe you should refrain from touching any woman's hair without their express permission. Because last time I checked, if we look at other cultures, if you are an Orthodox Jew, if you are an Arab, if you wear a hijab, I should say, in particular, if you're a Muslim and you wear a hijab, you're not touching my hair
at all. Yeah.
Right. So it's not about being a Black woman per se. It's about respecting my boundaries. And so the only way that other people outside of myself can know about respecting my boundaries is if I have a clear internal dialogue and establish what those boundaries are, and then I make it clear to them. So, but I think we have to do this with empathy, right? Because we can't, again, with the armor, it doesn't always need to be on, because sometimes people just don't know. I could be like, oh, you know what? That's my personal space. Please don't do that. Or I don't like it when people put their hands in my hair. Could you not do that?
Okay.
Right?
So those are some practical things we can practice. Right?
Unless you're Idris Elba, and that's a different conversation, right? But practical things, it all begins with empathy first towards ourselves. Give ourselves a break, right? Girls out there in particular, give yourselves a break, because it's a lot of pressure we're putting on ourselves. Society does that enough for us, right? Hold yourself to a high standard, but also you can't expect people to read your mind. So you have to communicate, get over those cultural collisions with an empathetic hand stretch out, right? And I mean, if somebody's yanking your hair, that in and of itself is a bad thing. You deal with that differently. Right. But people are curious, but they don't know how to express their curiosity. But you make it clear to them, So for Becky and Jacqueline, right? You make it very clear to them, why do you want to touch my hair? Because that's not a thing for me. Yeah. And they may just say, oh, because it looks so beautiful. And that's, I have to tell you, most of the time, that's why people do that, because they want to touch it because it's so different from what they've seen, and they love how it looks. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, but then it depends. It depends. More than likely, no. I'm telling you, still no. But I appreciate the gesture. Right. But we also have to, treat adults as adults. Like, if you're a little girl, this is a different thing. Right, that's cute. Right. But I'm like, no, we're in a meeting of peers. Right. That's not happening.
So one big thing I'm taking away from your advice is having empathy. So many times I hear some of my peers get upset, which they have the right, to be upset, but they're automatically like, well, they should know not to touch my hair.
How are they going to know?
Right. Sis, did you tell them?
Right.
Did
and the answer is usually
no.
no.
Right. So they don't know, because I had an instance where luckily I had literally just went to a cultural collisions training like a month prior, and this came up. And so there was a white woman, and I kind of knew her a little personally, and she went to put her hands in my hair, and before I know it, I smacked her hand away
That was an automatic reaction right there.
I was like, oh, excuse me, you will not today. And I was working.
I love that. Not today.
Or any day.
Right.
But what I learned, I went back. So it kind of got awkward. But then I went back to her at a later date, maybe like 2 days later. And I just asked her, I was like, I just wanted to share that I was uncomfortable when you went to touch my hair. And she was so apologetic that I felt bad. And I was like, how do I now
See, now
feel
everybody
bad?
feels bad, and we don't want that.
Right, we don't want that. So listeners out there, male or female, whatever situation that you have that may be a cultural collision, I love that we're going to try to show empathy. We're going to show empathy because most times people don't know. Like, I've offended people who were...
How dare you?
Right, how dare me? Who are a different nationality, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I really didn't know. But when they taught me, now I go into settings and I have a newfound respect, and I know something new, and so
your armor's shinier.
Yes,
right?
It's like I got a little polish.
Exactly. I love it.
Yes,
just dropping knowledge of polish. I love it.
We have to know what part of the armor to take out, and so you know what?
Can I just add one more thing, though, to that? Because when we're talking about hair, this is something that I've seen happen too often as well. For our Black women out there, you don't need to educate white women about their Black children's hair because that, too, is offensive.
Yeah.
Right? And I've seen this happen more times than I can even recall. And that's really offensive to the parent of that child, right? In the supermarket, you know, it's not how you would comb that child's hair. And you might have a judgment about that. Oh, look at Japanese face, guys. But if you could see what I see. But you know, it's really offensive to them. And it's hurtful.
I just didn't think people did that.
They do. All the time. They do. And you know, it's well intended. Just like the lady who wanted to touch her hair thought it was so pretty.
Yeah.
Right. But think about how it makes that parent feel. Right. And you can go around that by having conversations, but maybe your advice isn't wanted or warranted.
Right.
You know, one parent in particular, she just loves her daughter's hair looking wild and beautiful. She's not thinking about the implications that may mean.
Right.
So I think, you know, it goes both ways. It really does, you know. And so I'm a proponent of people having clarity and understanding, but maintain some boundaries, because if you don't want something done to you, right?
Yeah.
We can't go up there
And do it for others.
Okay.
Yes. Isn't that the golden rule?
That is the golden rule.
Wait, there's another one.
The platinum rule, though.
Yes.
That's the one. Do unto others as they ask you to do unto them. That is the
yeah.
culturally competent rule.
That's why I learned it at that training.
Right?
Yes. Wow. We just have gems dropping all over.
We're just a jewelry store up in here.
Come shop with us for a low price.
All right.
So this literally ties right into my next question. I love that this whole thing is about our armor and who we are and what we're putting on in the morning, what we may need to take off. How do we learn to bring our whole authentic selves into professional settings as a Black woman, as a young Black woman, as a sassy? Like, this is me. I'm 24. I'm sassy. I'm super smart. I like to say what I think, you know, with most times. I'm a woman of faith. I'm confident. How do I take all of me and my armor into a workplace where there's one other person who looks like me? What armor do I need to put on?
Well, I love that. First, let me congratulate you again. You are killing the game, because if I was as put together as you were at 24, well, my company might not exist, because I needed some evolution for all of that, right? But I commend you, because you are you are doing it. You are adulting. Go ahead, girl, blush.
To adult.
Listen, today to get here, I was trying to adult. I was just like, well, let's just put on some jeans, y'all. Let's go. You know, but I will say this. I will say we need to create, again, going back to empathy, we need to create a psychologically safe space, right? For ourselves internally, and then for others, right? And so that means pushing ourselves outside of our comfort zone. And I know that sounds contradictory, but you know, when you know yourself and you clearly establish your boundaries, right? And you're empathetic, that creates psychological safety for people externally, right? You make them feel at ease. Everybody has something in common. And it might be, when we give trainings, I like to use the example of, when was the time you failed at something? Because everyone, you know, from Elon Musk to little kid taking a spelling test has failed at something, right? Great leaders are made and forged through failure, right? So everybody has that story in common to share, right? For me, it was riding a bike. Wow. That was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. But literally, it was easier to start a company. But having said that, you know, it lets people just put their guard down a little bit, right? So when you go into a place, that might not be the first thing that people say. What was the first thing you failed at, right? But I think, when you notice that you are one of maybe two other people that look just like you, or you are the only one, then, that's not always bad. And I'll push the envelope a little bit by saying this, because you may have more in common with all of those other people. You all may be millennials.
Yeah.
You all may be from the South.
Yeah.
You all may be in a sorority, right? Not the same one, right? But you all may have those things in common. Whereas I walk in the room and I look like you, right? And we are totally different.
Yeah.
Right? So I would say put down your preconceived notions, but also to bring more diversity into the sphere, ask yourselves, what pathways are being put down for recruitment purposes.
Right.
How are we networking? Are we networking with inclusion in mind? Because here's the thing, diversity is nice, but inclusion is really the powerful thing. And I like to quote Verna Myers, who said she's currently the VP of Netflix, but before she was an attorney and advocate for diversity and inclusion. And she said diversity is inviting someone to a party.
Right.
Inclusion is asking them to dance, right? And we all want to be at the party. Sure, it's nice to be at the party, but dancing is where the good fun is.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
And I will even take that a step further. Diversity is about having equality. Inclusion is about equity.
Yeah.
And that is what matters at the table.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you don't have a voice, then why are you even there?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So you need to mentor on a peer-to-peer level, right? When you see someone new come on in, right, be their peer. And I will say this, just like it's important for you to see others that look like you, it's important for others who don't look like you to see you. So the person you may mentor from a peer-to-peer level, they may not look like you, right?
Yeah.
Because let's be real. There are people that have never seen someone that look like you, that have grown up in this country, and you're only on television.
Yeah.
So now you get to expand their horizons. Think about the ripple effect that might have, right? How will they change the world because they got to know you, right? So it's more than just your race. Race is important. Ethnicity is important, but it's about making those clear connections with people that empower them to transcend their own beliefs, to broaden their perspectives and your own along the way.
Yes, especially my own.
And the church said.
I mean, I'm just thinking of all the times where I could have.
But why?
Come out of my box and...
But regret is useless.
You're right.
Guilt is a useless emotion, okay? If I'm leaving you all with anything, guilt is a useless emotion. What you're learning today will impact you right now.
And then moving, we're not going to think about that. I'm going to think about all the times I will now challenge myself. I think that's what it's about. I can honestly say growing up as a Black girl in the South, one, I didn't see a lot of diversity. It was white or Black. I didn't learn about like Caribbean, Dominican, Haitian until I went to college. And sorry, you can shoot me in the foot if you want to, everyone out there.
That's the ecosystem, right? College is a microcosm for life.
I did not learn. And so when I was faced with people who didn't look like me, I was so used to just retreating back.
Yes.
And I said, wow, I can't be this very smart, very talented young lady and only stay in my Black bubble. And so I am so appreciative that today you are dropping all types of gems. That's like, you know what, guys? Just as a community, whether you're Black, white, whatever you are, Haitian, Dominican, African, come into my bubble. I am welcoming you into my bubble.
The rainbow bubble.
And then open your bubble for others, because the only way we can progress as people, no matter what color we are, is if we are inclusive.
Make it the Bubble Coalition, okay?
I'm about to trademark
all right,
Bubble Coalition.
There you go.
So with that, you have shared so many great things. What will be your top 3 just key takeaways for our listeners today? I know we have so many great ones. I have one favorite, but I'm going to let you tell us your top 3.
My top 3, clarity, empathy, communication.
Okay. I like it. Clarity, empathy, communication. I would say I only have one. I have a top 1.
Oh.
And that is my armor.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to put on my armor. And this is so funny. I'm such a church girl. Not the armor of the Lord. I'm going to save that one. But I'm going to put on my diverse and inclusive armor.
That's what's up.
I feel that sometimes when we as Black people, some of us, talk about diversity and inclusion, we're talking about it from a I. Why,
Okay.
what about me? You know,
Right.
me. We're never talking about it from a we
And that's why
standpoint.
most programs fail.
Yes.
Like and you and I know this. We've had personal conversations, right, outside of this fabulous podcast, where I told you that I've gone around the country taking different diversity and inclusion courses, and inevitably the underlying theme has always been teaching white people about everyone else. That doesn't work. It's not inclusive. It fails. So we deal with every color in the crayon box, and so that's what my goal and my mission was. Again, going back to even my interpreter training, I wanted to give better than I got.
Right.
You know, and so my method is really to do away with that traditional paradigm. And so diversity doesn't drive inclusion. That does not work. And a friend and colleague named Dawn Christian, who has, she has this wonderful brand called I Belong Here. If you're listening, Dawn, cut our checks. But it's called I Belong Here. And it's this wonderful thing where she taught me that inclusion drives diversity. And I was so glad to have that nugget of information because it reshaped how I teach, how I train, how I talk with other people.
Right.
So inclusion is the big driver. So put that armor on.
Put that armor on. Listen, guys, everyone out there, put your armor on. You can be a part of my bubble. That is my other takeaway. We
Bubble
have the
Coalition?
rainbow, no, the bubble coalition. Yes. This was so great. So as you know, one, thank you, first of all, before I get into homework. Thank you so much for your expertise, what you have imparted on us. I am hopeful that all of my School of Life friends are just like, yes, let me do a self-check and put on my D&I armor because I need it. Guys, we have some great tips and resources that Bertine has shared and just really help us not to want to slap anyone because people may want to slap us on the job too. You know,
Man, not the slaps.
And you're a professional at this, so we are trusting you. That is why I trust your guidance, and I know you wouldn't steer us wrong. And you have been so great today. So before we get out of here, my listeners know that I give homework every week because my hope is that my podcast can challenge us all to be just better people in general.
Absolutely.
So because you are the expert and the guest, can you give the friends and I some homework? It can be something to read, something to practice, something to do, speak to someone who is now part of the Bubble Coalition. What would be your homework assignment to us on this topic?
I love it. Girl, don't have me giving people homework because I'm about to do it. All right. First, thank you so much for having me on the show today, Jaye. This was just wonderful. I loved being here.
Awesome.
Just the best fun. So, and I'm glad to just have this discussion with you and with, the School of Life listeners and just really increase everybody's, Bubble Coalition if I can. So I would say I'm going to give you homework in 2 parts. Okay. Because I think we need to have the foundation and then some action behind it, right? So there's a book called Why We Gather. Now, oh man, don't quote me on the
I'll look
author.
it up and tag it. I'll make sure I tag it in the show
Thank
notes.
you so much. So Why We Gather explores reasons why people get together and how to make that productive and proactive. And so this goes into having those conversations with people, right? And being intentional and inclusive in your gatherings, in your networkings, in, the cookouts, in all of that stuff, right? So then once you get your hands on that, I want you guys to go out there, extend the hand, literally or figuratively, to someone in your sphere that you have not gotten to know well, that is different from you, right? Because that's important. And remember, too, they might look like you and be so different from you. So don't limit it to same or different color. Go out there, somebody that you see at work all the time, right? Or that you just want to get to know better or have them get to know you, right? So get a book, get a friend. That's your homework.
It. Get a book, get a friend. You are so awesome. Listen, guys, I will be sure to tag the Why We Gather author in the show notes. And y'all know I spell out the homework for you every week. Get a book, get a friend. Bertine, thank you so much again for joining me today. Before we get out of here, is there anything else you want to say to our listeners?
Let's see. Can I talk about the summit?
Of course.
Oh, yes. Awesome. Thank you. So Westbridge Solutions started a started a project really. It started a project. So I have a podcast called the Global Fluency Project. That started the Global Fluency Podcast. I'm sorry, and that started from the 50 tips book I wrote called Global Fluency. So quick and dirty tips on how to just get something done, how to create that space. Because a lot of times we hear about it theoretically, but no one tells us steps. So I literally put it out as steps you can follow. Take one a day, one a week for the whole year, right? And so that blossomed into the Global Fluency Summit. And that's a summit where, again, I strive to go against that traditional paradigm and push inclusion as the driving force of diversity. And so we have the colleague I mentioned, Dawn Christian, is going to be there. Tanya Morris. We have amazing keynotes. Every aspect of diversity you think we can cover, we do. And being that we're in Gwinnett County, I started this because I was tired of going to other places to find a diversity and inclusion conference. And so we are the most diverse county in Georgia, and we are what the United States will look like in 20 years, right? So I said, well, again, I don't see something, I'm going to make it. I'm going to create it. And so we had the first one, a historic event, last year. And this year, we're having the second one on April 20th. Oops, I'm getting my date wrong. We're having the second one.
April 17th.
Thank you, Jaye. Thank you. We're having the second one on April 17th, 2020, from 8 to 3:30. It is going to be amazing, even better than the last. So, thank you guys for tuning into that. You can find information about that at www.globalfluencysummit.com.
Perfect. And I will be sure to tag that in the show notes as well.
Thank you.
And all of your social media. So if people want to get more advice, they can book a consultation.
Yes, they can.
Thank you again. Wow. Okay, you guys, that wraps up another fabulous episode of the School of Life podcast. Today's episode was all that and a bag of chips. Thank you again. I can't stop saying thank you enough because you have got our adult life all the way together.
Oh my gosh,
this part
you.
We're going to get together. So as always, friends, I hope you learned something new, gained some kind of insight, because that is why the School of Life exists. Listen, we're all in this together. We're all growing. We're evolving. None of us have it packaged up in a bow, and we never will. But if we keep fighting and keep pushing and keep evolving, we'll get there. We'll get to some form of a bow. It may not be perfect, but we will get there. So last words to our friends before we close out.
Just thank you, Jaye, for having me on the show. Thank you to the friend gang at School of Life. I appreciate you guys. And if you see me walking down the street and you recognize my voice, extend a hand. I will always, always, always reach back out and shake it. So thank you guys for honestly being your authentic selves, wanting to be on this path, because it's an ever evolving, wonderful journey. So I'm continuing to go with you, and I thank you for being you.
Awesome. All right, guys, you heard it here first. We are evolving together. I love y'all. I'll be back with another episode next week. Keep your adult lives intact. Until then, talk soon.